really, and I mean really, are not a serious people anymore.
To the parade route. This is at 49th and 6th specifically. I believe this is the shot of the scene there right now. It has temporarily paused the parade. It has impacted the parade, so we are going to keep you updated on this.
This is CitizenNet video of what is unfolding right now. Again, the eyes of the world right now on New York City and specifically this Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. And we know with the conflict still raging in the Middle East, the NYPD has been on heightened alert. All the different agencies involved in securing the parade route on heightened alert. They always are, but this year specifically. So again, nobody has been injured per se, but it has caused a delay.
You can make out maybe like one person I see so far, maybe one or two people on the ground right now.
So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the balloons around it, which you can see right there.
I think it's obvious at this point that these people have no lives and they obviously live to create chaos in other people's lives. But don't worry, we will discuss these people more at the very, very end of the video. So make sure you guys stick around for the full piece. Well, guys, I am officially back. I figured I'd take a few days off. And as you guys can see, obviously the world continued to go around over Thanksgiving. And of course, these people decided that they wanted to protest during Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. We'll talk more about this here in a second, but protest on Black Friday, people screaming that you need to be supporting Palestine, that you can't shop until the fighting in the Middle East stops. And don't worry, we'll be talking about that here in a second. This will be the first of two videos. I hope you guys had a very good Thanksgiving. I hope you guys didn't get into any type of brawls or fistfights or verbal entanglements with liberal members of your family or people that, quite frankly, just want to be a jerk on Thanksgiving. Of course, we've had that happen in the past before. I was actually the arbiter on a couple of those occasions. But still, at the same time, though, we need to talk about this because this right here, once again, proves that right now at this moment in time, we're not exactly what you call a serious people. Then you get the case of this person here that I'm about to show you. Just roughly 10 seconds. Don't worry, we'll talk more in depth about her here soon because when you prop people up like this, nobody's going to take your side seriously.
Thank you so much for having me. I called for a ceasefire and I continue to call for a ceasefire because we cannot bomb our way to peace. We need a political solution, not a military solution.
This individual goes by the name of Jessica Rosenberg. Apparently, this is a T rabbi. I chose to shorten what I normally say when I use to describe this particular persuasion, this particular lifestyle. So I've decided to just kind of narrow it down to T for the purposes of this video and, of course, for the purposes of this algorithm. So, as many of you guys know, there's a conflict going on between Israel and the Palestinians, Hamas, right there in the Gaza Strip. I don't think we have to go through all this again, but I'll be explaining to you guys why it is that these people are wrong for what they're doing, and also not to mention, I'm also going to be bringing up the possibility that we're going to continue to deal with this out of these people for a very long time. Because, of course, once you start protesting at shopping malls, you start protesting at parades, once you start, basically what you're doing is just interfering with people's everyday life. You're starting to interfere with their fun. Things become a problem. We're going to be discussing that in this video as well. But let me go ahead and point this out right now. The people at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, they thought it would be a good idea to glue themselves to the ground. Yes, they actually thought that it would be a good idea to glue their hands to the ground so that way the police could not pull them away. If you get ripped from asphalt, if you get ripped from the ground, I'm pretty sure that that is a pretty nasty injury, especially given the fact that there's glue on your hands. Yeah, not exactly what we call bright. But let's go ahead and get into it. So I think we all know right now why it is that progressives love to take the side of anything that's anti-America. It's the whole oppressor thing. And they typically tend to protest anything that is, how do I say, close to America, an American ally, or America itself. It's the Blame America crowd. And of course, we'll probably do some videos on that in the next year, especially in essay format, because we have to really and truly dissect exactly what's going on with these people and how exactly we do, in fact, counter them, which, of course, I have not exactly talked much about that, but don't worry, we will in the future. Fact of the matter is that nobody takes us seriously. Nobody's going to take us seriously, especially if we've got people like this, if we've got people out there protesting on the side of Hamas, which is an actual terrorist organization. They're saying that they're being pro-Palestine. They're saying they want to free Palestine, even though this video was shared by Stu Peters. And I thought this place was an open-air prison, but apparently, it just doesn't really look that way, according to him. But still, at the same time, though, here we are once again. Anytime a U.S. ally or a friend of the United States gets embroiled in some form of entanglement, of course, the radical left, the progressives, go out there and they decide to simp for what they believe is the oppressed party, even though it was Hamas that struck Israel first. Like I said, it always comes down to who threw the first rock. Now, here's the thing about ceasefires. Ceasefires typically tend not to fix anything. And of course, there was a temporary ceasefire to release some of the hostages this weekend. Of course, the Palestinians or Hamas decided to start shooting back at Israel shortly after hostages were exchanged. We'll probably do a separate video on that at a later date once we get all the details of that entire situation. But the thing is this right here. Ceasefires don't work. Let me give you guys a great example of a ceasefire, okay? Let me give you guys a great example. It might be a little bit hyperbolic, but I'm going to give it to you guys anyways. When World War I ended, you guys probably have heard the story. 11th day, 11th month, 11th hour, a ceasefire was agreed to. Eventually, there was a treaty that was signed over a year later. Many people believe that because of that ceasefire and because of the terms of that actual treaty, of course, the Treaty of Versailles, they believe that World War II was just simply a continuance of World War I. Of course, when it comes to the topic of North and South Korea, the Korean War, of course, that ended on a ceasefire, and therefore the war technically is not over with. This is another reason why it is that I really and truly am not okay with the ceasefire. Now, I know I've done some videos, especially the Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro beef, where I, for the most part, sided with Candace. However, that does not mean, though, that I don't have some disagreements with her on this. I don't think she's as fully embroiled or as fully educated on the topic because she's still relatively new to conservatism. It wasn't until sometime after 2016 that she began to start moving over to the right. And, of course, she's always been a very skilled debater. And, of course, you've got the whole thing that's going on between her and Ben right now at the Daily Wire. But still, at the same time, though, someone like that there I could probably have a conversation with and explain why this is actually the case. But still, in this particular incident, in this particular case here, you wouldn't want to have a ceasefire because what's probably going to happen is that shortly after a ceasefire is declared, Hamas is just going to attack Israel again. I think what Israel is doing right now, and really quick, Bibi Netanyahu is not popular in his country, and there are a lot of Israelis right now who are unhappy with him, who actually blame him for what's happening over there. But still, at the same time, they're going to rally around Bibi for the time being to get rid of what is actually perceived to be an actual threat. That right there is the reason why Israel has just said, screw this right here. They gave us they gave us the excuse. We're going to go ahead and go in there and take care of this problem right now. We don't care who gets in the way. We're going to go ahead and do this. Even though Bibi Netanyahu did, of course, admit that the bombing run did not have the desired effect that he wanted. But don't worry, we'll talk more about that on the other end because we got to talk about Rosenberg here.
Rabbi Jessica Rosenberg made headlines when she confronted the president earlier this month at a campaign fundraiser in Minnesota. Here she is.
Mr. President, if you care about Jewish people, as a rabbi, I need you to call for a ceasefire right now.
Now, really quick, that little protest or whatever that she did at the Biden speech, I don't know, guys. It just seems to me like some of this entire stuff, it just seems to me like some of it is just scripted. Like maybe these were moments that were put into the speech, and maybe the current occupant of the White House, former Vice President Joe Biden, may have like people saying it in his ear. But then again, though, he kind of has a problem hearing anyway. So I really truly don't know. I want to get you guys' thoughts. It just feels to me like maybe this right could have been staged. I mean, but let's go a little further.
Say to the president now.
Thank you so much for having me. I called for a ceasefire and I continue to call for a ceasefire because we cannot bomb our way to peace. We need a political solution, not a military solution. Palestinians are fighting for equal rights.
Actually, you can bomb your way into you actually can bomb your way into peace. Countries typically tend to do this when they've been attacked. They typically tend to do this when they're at war. Now, I know somebody's probably going to say, well, we shouldn't have invaded Iraq. Somebody's probably going to say we shouldn't have done the entire global war on terrorism. And I understand a lot of your your arguments. Don't fully agree with all of them, but then again, at the same time, some of them, of course, in my opinion, are in fact valid. But the thing is this right here, when you're actually attacked by another nation or a group that came from that nation, you need to fight back. Now, a lot of these progressives, which to me I think is absolutely hilarious that the progressives, of course, are in fact simping for for Hamas at this moment in time. Don't let them fool you. They're simping for Hamas because guess what? Next time Hamas decides to do some form of strike on Israel and Israel fights back, of course, they will go out of their way to say that the Palestinians are justified. They're innocent. I mean, these people have been screaming for the death of babies here recently. So, yes, you can bomb your way into peace. And if you straight up bomb Hamas and you get rid of Hamas, more than likely that headache is going to be gone and Israel will, in fact, experience some form of peace. Now, right there at the very end of that 20-second clip, the person said, we need a political solution. We'll talk more about political solutions on the other end. Let's go ahead and watch the rest of this.
Community dealing with the trauma of the massacre and, of course, the hostages who have yet to return home. But they're also dealing with anti-Semitic attacks. Perhaps, you have dealt with that as well. We are seeing that just disturbingly across the world. While you're calling for peace, what do you say to people in the Jewish community who are still dealing with all this pain?
Well, first of all, we get to grieve. We take all the space and time we need to feel the extreme grief and rage of the violence on October 7th, and to acknowledge all of what comes up when this happens, which is centuries of anti-Semitism, and killing Palestinians does not honor or bring back any of the lives of Israelis who were lost on the 7th. And I want to say, I know there's many non-Jews who believe that supporting Israel in this war is how to stand in solidarity with Jews or even make repair for the atrocities of the Holocaust. And I want to say that ending anti-Semitism in all the places that Jews live, everywhere, that is how you stand in solidarity with Jews.
Now, before we talk about political solutions, I want to reiterate this point one more time. Sunni Muslims and American progressives, especially social progressives, would never mix. I have said this before on several occasions. I've talked about this in the previous video that I did talking about identity politics, why it is that most of these groups actually hate one another, most of these groups that they're trying to bring together, and of course it's been backfiring for a very long time. I want you to imagine for a second, I just want you guys to just take a second and kind of think about this. Let's say that a bunch of Palestinians come across CNN on the television one day and they see this person here speaking on Israel's behalf or speaking on behalf of getting a ceasefire, claiming to be a rabbi. Don't you think that the Sunni Muslims that live in that area would just simply laugh at this and just continue on? These people are so stupid. I mean, these people don't exactly have it. These right here are the people who are cheering for us. Don't they realize that we could eat them alive in no time? Look, social progressive values and Islam just do not mix, okay? I've talked this on several occasions in several videos. I'll talk about it in more videos in the future. It's just this very, very weird thing where it is that social progressives, they got to go out of their way to blame America for anything and everything. It's a very, very strange mental illness. And one more thing that needs to be brought up, especially given the fact I just mentioned mental illness, go back to what I was saying earlier about ceasefires. Basically, what ceasefires ensure is that the war will pick back up at a later date. I don't know about you guys, but I don't feel like trying the same thing over and over and over again to get get different results. That typically does not work, because you just get the same result each time. It's pretty much the definition of insanity. And here's something else, too, about those ceasefires. Typically, the side that's losing, they tend to be the one that go for the ceasefire. Not very many times in history has anybody asked for a ceasefire from a position of strength. A lot of times they can be called when a military or a country is about to start losing a war. Going back to World War I, Germany was definitely losing the war at the time when they called for the ceasefire, or they finally basically agreed to one, which of course is something they had been wanting all of 1918 because, well, I wouldn't say all of 1918, I'd say definitely the last few months. Because Germany was losing so many men, it was absolutely ridiculous. And then to go on top of that, the only other time I could think of where ceasefire was called or called from even a position of strength was the Gulf War in 1991, when George Herbert Walker Bush basically said, look, let's go ahead and put an end to this before we decide to actually invade Iraq and pretty much take over the country and completely destroy it. That right there was being done to save possibly some innocent Iraqis in the region. By the way, I want to go ahead and make this point perfectly clear so that way you guys know that I'm not some warmongering POS. There are good people who do live in the Middle East. As a matter of fact, most of the people who do live in the Middle East are not radicalized. It's just these little factions like Hezbollah and, of course, Hamas. And, of course, you had ISIS for a very, very long time that are, in fact, radicalized. Not everybody over there who lives in the Middle East is radicalized. I just want to go ahead and get that point out of the way now. But the only reason why Hamas would even want a ceasefire is because they're actually losing this conflict, and that's the reason why they're suing. Now, obviously, most people sitting down at home watching this particular person, they're more than likely not going to take that person serious for obvious reasons that we can't discuss here on this platform without getting the channel moved to the shadow realm. But the thing is this right here. Political solutions will more than likely not occur. You see, as I said this before, Israel also blames Benjamin Netanyahu for a lot of what's going on here. They actually blame him for what's actually happening. So he's not popular either. So more than likely what will occur is that after this entire situation is over with, they'll probably move on from him as a leader, especially given all the court nonsense and stuff, which is very convenient for Hamas to do it while the nation itself was in some form of political upheaval. But then again, though, at the same time, when you attack a nation, typically when it's divided the way it is, it has a tendency of uniting people against a common enemy. And of course, in Israel, they're probably saying, we need to go ahead and end this nightmare now and get rid of this headache, which is pretty much what Hamas has been since their existence to Israel. The thing is this right here, guys, and I want to go ahead and say this. In the 1930s, they were offered a state. 47, they were offered a state. 67, they were offered a state. They were offered a state in the 90s. And of course, Israel eventually unilaterally got up and walked away from the table and said, look, you guys can have the Gaza Strip. We're tired of this. We're tired of this nonsense. We're tired of all this back and forth. You guys can have it. But of course, Hamas, they want the entire nation. They want all the land. They want everything. They believe that Israelis are in fact settlers. That's what they actually believe. They believe that these people are unwanted guests. Of course, we've also had people like Hassan Piker, who I've done a video on here recently, who basically said that basically little tiny babies are now enemy combatants. That right there being those who live in Israel, not those who live in Palestine. Very strange logic, because if you go in that direction, Israelis could then turn right back around and say that Palestinian babies are enemy combatants. You guys kind of pick up on what I'm saying. The logic here is gone with these people. These people aren't exactly what we call smart. And of course, they've also decided to take their socially progressive values and decide they want to side with a group of people that's actually extremely right-wing. Fascinating exactly how these people's brains work. So let's go back to the ceasefire for a very quick second. So I already talked earlier about why it is that ceasefires just end up just becoming a continuous of another war at a later date. That's probably what Israel is thinking right now, that Hamas is just going to attack us again, so why not go ahead and get rid of them? Why not just go ahead and take care of the problem now? And seeing how the circumstances that occurred gave them the excuse to do so, that's probably what Israel is going to want to do. I don't think that the United States is going to be able to stop it. I don't believe anybody's going to be able to stop it, because I don't see Israel, I don't see them pulling back from this. I see them going all the way. It's something, of course, these social progressives don't seem to understand. And, of course, what's really hilarious is that the people who are calling for a ceasefire are the people that Islam, of course, does not exactly ally with. But they will use them because they are good old-fashioned, useful idiots. So, for the time being, I don't see a political solution occurring here. I think Israel is looking at this entire situation and saying, we need to go ahead and get rid of this problem, and get rid of this problem for good. So, it will probably get a little bit bloodier. And here's where I'm going to end the video at, because I need to end the video exactly on what it was that I first talked about. The people who are out there protesting, the people who are out there making other people's lives a living hell. Normally, when school's out, they go back home, but still at the same time, these people who, quite frankly, don't have jobs or anything, but they got time to protest, these perpetual victims, these people are going to continue to do this. So I would expect this type of nonsense to probably ramp up over the holiday season as far as we get closer to Christmas. Don't worry, the war on Christmas is coming back too. Trust me, you're going to see some more of that stuff as well. And they'll probably come out and protest that to go along with what's going on in the Middle East. With that right there being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video now. I've got one more video coming out to go along with this one right here. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, Share the video, sound off in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this, and I'll see you guys later.